could, if we could all stand up for just a moment. And if we could, not a moment of silence, but a moment of celebration, for his heart still beats strong, and his spirit lives in all of us who care and do our work in social justice every day. Can we bask in the glory of the life and life work of Nelson Mandela? And can we also take a moment to celebrate the incredible journey of these last weeks, where we know, because of the Supreme Court and because of the Senate and, God willing, the Congress and the President, we will all live in a nation where there is much more liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please sit down and get comfortable, because you know, for every $1 million they put against you, you're allowed 30 minutes of an induction speech. If you're upset, we have some letters you could write to Mayor Bloomberg afterwards. The LAUSD family who just came to swear me in, so honored. We had representatives from our classified workers, our cafeteria workers, our amazing teachers and school leaders, our parents and families, and most importantly, Ruben and Janet, two students who were recovered last year on Student Recovery Day and are now part of the more than 3,000 who have been recovered as part of the Student Recovery Day efforts, who are now on track to graduate from high school. So proud that they were here to join with me today. I wouldn't have it any other way. And one more hand, could we please, for the amazing students from El Sereno and Hollywood High School. Paciencia y fe. We almost lost all of this. We almost lost all of this. And I first want to say to the folks who were involved in the campaign, to my friends who have become my family, especially Sharon and Etta and Annika and many who have joined me here today, and also my fur family who is not here, and my own family who have sacrificed so much with me so far away for these 4 years and beyond. We almost lost this. And I also want to thank deeply and from the bottom of my heart all of my colleagues here around this diocese. Mrs. Lamont, Ms. Garcia, Ms. Gallatin, Mr. Kaiser, Ms. Ratliff, Ms. Martinez before her, and Dr. Vladovic, who have guided us through these 5 terribly, terribly difficult years. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve with you. Thank each and every one of you for everything that you do for our kids and for our school family. Thank you, LAUSD Board of Education. And to the superintendent and his team, and to Superintendent Ray Cortinez and his team before, thank you so much for guiding us through these difficult, difficult waters. And thank you most of all to the LAUSD family, who sacrificed in ways that we never, ever, ever could have imagined, so that this district and public education would survive through the worst economic crisis ever to face a public school district in the history of our country. And at last, thank you to all the voters of California for passing Proposition 30 and providing us a pathway out of the chaos and towards stability. What we almost lost is not just the amazing voices that you heard in arts education and all the things that happen every day at our public schools. We almost lost something far greater. We almost lost the dream and the ideals of public education. The dreams and ideals of public education that involve the concept that we serve every student that comes to the schoolhouse door. Every student. And that somehow, some way, public education can be the great equalizer in a society far, far, far too unequal. It is a dream that is deeply rooted in my own family. My grandmother, of Shalom of blessed memory, was the first of an immigrant family born here in the United States. She lived a very, very tough life, dropped out of school at the age of 15 to go work in the fabricas of Lower Manhattan, deferred her own dream. And then the dreams that she had for her children were almost interrupted by my grandfather's tragic illness and death at a very, very young age. So as a widower, as a factory worker, as a garment worker, she brought my mother and her uncle, my uncle, to the schoolhouse doors of Public School 219 in East Flatbush, Brooklyn, New York. It was that promise. It was the guidance of the teachers and the counselors and the principals, the hard work, that allowed my mom and my uncle to rise up from poverty, to fulfill my grandmother's deferred dream, my mother to become a teacher, my uncle to become a lawyer, the public school system, the city of New York. Our students today face even more challenges because what my grandmother and my mother and my uncle did not have to face was the challenge of institutional racism that faces our students here in Los Angeles in the most vigorous and vicious ways, even in 2013. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. Stephen Biko died before the age of 30. And yet, we are in danger of having a system of educational apartheid right here in Los Angeles. And if you need any evidence that this is true, all you need to look at is the LA Times report of this week of the UC entrance rates for African American and Latino students. We cannot turn away from this. We cannot rest until we take action against this. And there are specific things that we can and must do, that we must assert, each and every one of us, if it really truly is about all students. Every student has the right to access the full A through G curriculum that qualifies them to enter the UC and Cal State system without exception. I applaud this board, the courage of this board for making that real. But it is not enough to have access to classes. They must also have the access to the educational foundation and the instructional quality that makes graduation, college, and career ready real, not just words on paper. And those rights are not negotiable. It is also true that every student has the right to be in a classroom every day with an excellent teacher leading that classroom. And that right is not negotiable. The question has always been, how do we get there? And resoundingly and over and over and over again, the answer is clear that we must, we can, and we will get there together. Not divided, not blaming, not pointing fingers, together. And that together road, that negotiated road, that clasped hands road is the harder road. Much easier to blame, much easier to demonize, much easier to find scapegoats. We must take this road together if it is truly to be about all students graduating college and career ready. Is not only this barrier, though. Our kids were injured by the economic crisis. Our families suffered during this crisis. Our teachers and school employees felt real pain during this crisis. Our school community was damaged by this crisis, and our dreams were deeply endangered by this crisis, this economic crisis. But this crisis wasn't an accident. It wasn't a natural disaster. It wasn't Hurricane Sandy, Katrina, or the disastrous tornadoes in Oklahoma. The economic crisis was caused by real and direct and intentional individual greed and selfishness and corporate greed and selfishness. Our children got hurt and people got rich. Not only that. The greed and the selfishness was aided and abetted by policies of radical deregulation that made it possible, that actualized it. It is real. It's true. And now, the very same forces of corporate greed and radical deregulation, in the name of privatization and corporatization, believe that they somehow have the answers for what ails public education. And I say loudly and clearly, public education has the answers for what ails public education if we could just work hard enough inside ourselves together to get to that answer, and we will never have. It will never be true that the same forces that caused the crisis and the pain could possibly be the solution. Our work is with children. Glorious children. Complicated, difficult, amazing kids. And we are in danger also, and they are in danger also, of a type of elixir, that a type of magic pill or miracle drug that says if we can only be more and more and more data-driven, we will find all of the answers that we need. Now, data is important, and we should not be fearful or paranoid of data. We should embrace it. We should use it. But we should never be data-driven. We should be data-informed and student-driven. We should avoid the seduction of easy answers. And we should never, ever, ever kneel in a temple of data or bow at an altar of objectivity. Because the God I believe in teaches me that the things that are most beautiful and wondrous about children can never be measured by a standardized test. And that And that when we somehow begin to view our children through the lens of their performance to perform, their performance on a test, not only are we fracturing their humanity and potential, a piece of our humanity is compromised as well. The end of the story of Sadie Berlin didn't stop with the graduation and the achievement of my mom and my uncle. After my mom and uncle were old enough, my grandmother went to work again, first in the factories, and then she landed a secretarial job at Fireman's Fund Insurance, which she worked for 35 more years, until the age of 70, when she finally retired. And I thought, as a kid who loved his grandmother and whom she loved unconditionally, that when she retired, the first thing she would do is come and see her grandson. When my grandmother retired, the very next day, she walked down the street in Flatbush into her neighborhood community adult school and said, "I think now is my time." And they said to her at that community adult school, "Yes, you can do it, we can do this together." And at the age of 73, she finally achieved her high school diploma. I was very proud to be there with her. There are students all over the city that next year and in the coming years, as we implement the A through G, and we implement it with fidelity, who at some point late at night, historically it would be by candlelight, now by cell phone light, will be sitting there with a quadratic equation or something else that is, like Natalie Merchant once said, all these lines and circles, to me, a mystery. And they will grow frustrated, and they will doubt, and they will wonder whether or not they can do it. They will doubt themselves. They'll doubt their family. They'll doubt their potential. And all of these forces will rise up again. And somehow, some way, we as a community, entire civic community, must figure out a way to come together, put our differences aside, put our agendas aside, and starting with a firm but strong whisper in the night to all of those students with all of those doubts and all of those insecurities, starting with a whisper, yes, 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 you can. It must grow to be part of our entire mission as a city. For every teacher who is struggling, who is afraid to raise their hand and say, I too need help. I want to be better. I want to improve. I want to do right by my kids. And the reason I came into this profession, we must also say, with our words, with our action, with our support, yes, 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 you can. To the labor leaders who don't feel that we can go one more yard, one more step across the line to be about all children and the mission of public education. When it gets difficult, when the questions get hard, we as a community must give the strength. Yes, you can. Yes, we can. When the superintendent doesn't know if he can deal with it another day. The stress and the drama and all that it takes to lead this district in this time for all our kids. We, as a community, must come together. Yes, you can. Si se puede, John Daisy. And for families who don't know, if their dream in 2013 is as valid and legitimate as the dreams of all the immigrants who have come to this shore, who have come to this city, with their kids in our schools in this moment, on the billboards, the TVs, all around this institution. Yes, you can. Yes, we can. And I would say to you today that when we hit 75%, we should fill up Dodger Stadium. And when we hit 100%, we should fill the Coliseum. And all the cities should celebrate together what is possible and what we can do. It says in Scripture, right before the lines that Dr. King made so famous 50 years ago, clear a path. Clear a path through this wilderness that we have right now. Clear a path. We clear that path only by rolling up our sleeves and working together, working relentlessly and working urgently. Because if we clear that path, for every one of you who have met our students, heard their stories, listened to their voices, and know their dreams, we understand that it is not only a performance metrics, but a metrics of the heart and soul. And that we are not only accountable to data, but indeed accountable to the American dream. Together we can do it. Thank you very much.